So what is the difference between playing against the CPU and playing against a human on defense? What makes playing against a human so unique is not just adjustments, which do really make a difference, but playing against a human user. The user used to be super OP, you guys, and even though it's been nerfed every year for the past several years, the user is still the biggest difference maker in Madden. If you have a good user, you can not only take away your opponent's first read, but you can sometimes, if not most times, take away 2 or even 3 routes on a single play. It's what separates newbies from good players and good players from great players. And it's really not that difficult to do if you understand some basic principles and tips. Now remember, the main goal as a user is to disrupt, period. You're simply attempting to disrupt your opponent's offense, forcing him or her to have to make 2, 3, or even 4 reads down the chain, and ultimately to make a mistake in doing so, giving you an opportunity for a potential stop. And 1 or 2 stops in Madden this year really ups your odds for getting a win. So first off, the most common position to user in the game is the middle linebacker position, because it helps you take away nearly the entire middle of the field. Some people like to use her as safety, and if you can get a lurk artist on your defensive line, you can even use her a defensive lineman. But again, 90+% of people just use her their middle linebacker. It's best to have someone as your user who is as fast and agile as possible, and also as tall as possible so that you can animate better for interceptions. The taller the player, the more 3D area you can cover, and the faster the player, the more field or grass you can cover. So we need to talk about how to use her. The first and most basic technique is to strafe. Just go into practice mode and practice this. All you have to do is, as soon as the ball is snapped, hold the L2 button and your user is going to strafe as you move your joystick. He's definitely going to be slower here, but you'll be in position to make a play because when you're strafing, you're always facing the quarterback. Focus on just taking away the first read and stay in your area. Do not try to do too much. Just strafe in your area and focus on taking away the first read over the middle. Now, after you feel more comfortable with that, then you can work on more advanced user movement. Start strafing with your user, and once you see a route that you want to follow, simply let go of the L2 button and follow the receiver. And this is where you can even begin to use the turbo button if you intend to follow that route to its fruition. If you get good at this, and believe me, it doesn't take too long after practicing this, you're going to be able to frustrate many opponents just by using this technique. Next is the circle method. Generally speaking, all you need to do is to simply move either left or right depending on the offense, and then to just kind of circle back and up and then to the opposite side. This gives you the ability to take away a much larger patch of grass. Just move to the right, turn up, and move back to the left in a smooth motion or vice versa. You're going to see this on almost every play when you play a human who knows what he's doing. Just practice this and you'll see much more hesitancy from your opponent to test the middle of the field. And you're also likely to get a lot more interception opportunities. Finally, in terms of pass defense, once you're able to master the strafe and the circle method, you can then combine both of those techniques. I personally rarely strafe anymore, maybe just a split second or so after the snap. After you play enough, you're going to learn how to maneuver your user into position to take away your assigned area. Really often, I'll just kind of tap the stick back to the left and right, and I might not have to do anything more than just that. More advanced players are most often slowly going to break out of the snap, and they just kind of hover until routes start to develop, and then they'll circle or they'll just dart straight to route number 1 and then peel off to routes 2 and even 3. This is how you can bait your opponent into throwing interceptions, making it look like you're covering one route before bailing toward the other route. Oftentimes the human opponent is going to throw to the route he thinks you're covering, and as he's doing it, you start bailing straight toward the route he's actually throwing to, which leads to a lot of interceptions. This is the chess match, the cat and mouse game that can be so disruptive to offenses. And if the ball does come to you, all you have to do is press the triangle button to snag the interception. Some people really like to hold the triangle button down constantly, but I prefer to either just tap the triangle button when the ball comes to me or to spam that button if I think the ball might just be out of reach, right? So to me, this helps me catch the ball more consistently than holding the triangle button constantly. But just play around in practice mode until you find the right timing and your preferred method of using triangle to grab interceptions. It's also important to note that your main goal is to take away your opponent's primary read first. In bunch, for example, it's most typically the slot or the outside receiver. And if you can take that away, that first read, many, if not most, opponents are just going to sort of get lost. And if you can take away route number one and then swoop over to a second read, well, now you're really putting yourself in position to either get a coverage sack or to force an errant throw for an easy interception. Most games I play online, I end up with 2 or 3 interceptions, and that's not untypical. And once that starts happening, you're going to see a lot of players just sort of come unraveled. And you can tell because they start getting happy feet in the pocket, and they just essentially don't throw anything over the middle of the field anymore, which forces them to limit their routes to sideline routes, and we can easily take those away with our coverage shells and our adjustments, just making life miserable for our opponents. And to round out this video, we need to briefly talk about stopping the run with your user. In years past, it was so easy to just shoot the gap and blow up the run, but not so with this year's Madden. While you can shoot the gap, it's just so difficult to not only time the gap shoot properly, but to also snag the runner in the process. It's just too easy to get sucked into a blocking animation, or even if you don't, to completely whiff on the ball carrier. So as a user, your job is to help clog lanes or help fill gaps in between clogs and blocks. I'll sometimes sacrifice myself to take up 1 or 2 blockers, freeing a CPU player to make the play. Other times I'll keep my user out of harm's way until I see the running hole, and then I'll shoot that area. So just practice it and you're going to see what I mean. These are just some of the basic tips for how to take your user to the next level, and trust me, if you practice these principles, I promise you, you're simply going to get more stops and win more Madden games. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If it has, a like and subscribe would be really appreciated. And as always, have a great day.